So Arturia's Mini V is a software emulation of the Minimoog. Now, is it the worst emulation of the Minimoog, or is it the best? I shall discuss this in a moment, but what I want to say in this video is I don't care if it's the best or the worst emulation, and I shall explain why, and I will also suggest reasons why you should not care either. Now, although I'm talking specifically about the Minimoog and Minimoog software emulations, this video has a broader scope, and I would like it to encompass all software emulations and indeed hardware clones of existing or vintage instruments. Now, I picked the Minimoog and Minimoog emulations for this video because there are a ton of resources about this. And I shall, of course, link to everything I mention in the description. So let's start with Arturia's Mini V, and why did I suggest it might be the worst software emulation? Well, Starsky Co did a comparison between his own genuine vintage Minimoog and 5 software emulations. Now, as you're watching this video on this channel, there's a very good chance you are familiar with Starsky Co and his channel. I love the guy, I love the channel, so check him out. Yes, the links are down there. Now, Starsky does a lot of comparison videos between 2 different synthesizers, for example, but also in this case of software emulations. And in this video, he compared his Minimoog with 5 software emulations, and he concluded that the Arturia Minimoog was in joint bottom place. Now, a couple of points here. First of all, this comparison was actually done 5 years ago. Now, Arturia has a record of updating its software on a regular basis. I have their V collection, and several times a year I will get new updates to all the instruments. So there's a very good chance that the Mini V, which Starsky reviewed 5 years ago, has undergone several updates. So quite possibly it is more accurate. Now, Starsky does quite technical comparisons, comparing the oscillators, the filters, the envelope generators, and so on. Now, I also suggested that Mini V might be the best Minimoog software emulation. And according to Musicians HQ, it is. So, although it's difficult to argue with Starsky's technical analysis, although bearing in mind that it is 5 years old and quite possibly not the same Mini V we have today, I think if we think of the sound of a Minimoog in our head and try to emulate it, then I think we can emulate certain sounds the Minimoog produces on a range of hardware instruments and software instruments. So I think the best and worst software emulations from that point of view are a little bit subjective. Now, here's something which is even more interesting. Now, many people say that the Minimoog has a very distinctive sound, and Mark of AutomaticGainsay thought so too. So he produced a video test, and I would absolutely recommend you check out the link and go and take the Minimoog test. He recorded 4 different hardware synthesizers, including a Minimoog, and the challenge was for the viewer to pick out the Minimoog. In his video, he thinks this is going to be so easy. He thinks the sound is so distinctive, everyone would be able to tell the difference. In a follow-up video, he had to admit that he was wrong. Now, his channel is about synthesizers, and it's watched by people who are really into synthesizers. But in this follow-up video, he had to admit that the Minimoog sound was not as easy to distinguish as he thought it was. And these other hardware synths which he used fooled a lot of people into thinking that they were the Minimoog. So to get to one of the main points of this video is, I think anyone, any company who is going to produce an emulation of a particular type of synthesizer is going to do a lot of homework, and the emulation is going to be as accurate as they can get it to be. So Arturia has produced over 24 synthesizer and keyboard emulations, so I think they have the process off pretty well pat. So even if there is a more accurate emulation out there. I don't care. I think it would be close enough so that no one could really tell the difference. And here is the point. If you are making music, this is going to end up in a mix. I don't think anyone who listens to your music really cares if you use a genuine Minimoog to create this bass sound or lead sound, or if you use a software emulation. Now, of course, there will be people who are interested in the technical aspects, as indeed I am, but if I heard a piece of music I like, I wouldn't complain if someone used an emulation of a piece of hardware rather than the hardware itself. If the music was good, that is the bottom line. It's good music. I don't really care how it was produced. And I would suggest that you shouldn't either. So maybe that is something you want to think about. How accurate is a software emulation, and does it really matter? Now, just for the record, Starsky thought that the Legend by Synapse Audio was the best Minimoog emulation, and looking at some forum posts, a lot of people like that one as well. Now, whether you can tell the difference between the Legend, the Mini V, or a genuine Minimoog, I will leave that up to Starsky to make another video. But really, what I'm saying is, it doesn't matter. You put this in a mix and no one will know. So that's my point of view. Do you agree? Do you not agree? Is ultimate accuracy in software emulation, or indeed a hardware clone, is that of absolute paramount importance to you? Or are you happy to go along with something which sounds so close no one really could tell the difference? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. And of course, if you do have a Minimoog software emulation which you think is better than the Mini V, then please do tell us what it is in the comments. So that's it for this video. I hope you have enjoyed it, found it interesting, perhaps give you some food for thought. If you have enjoyed it, then perhaps you would like to consider subscribing to the channel if you don't do so already, and ringing the bell. Thank you. So you get informed of new videos as soon as I release them. As always, I do appreciate you spending time watching my videos. So for that, thank you very much indeed. And I will see you again very soon.